Hello and welcome to my review of the anime OverLord. My name is DragonMaster. I've seen over 100 anime, so without further ado, let us begin. OverLord is action fantasy spanning 13 episodes, one season, by Madhouse Studios. The synopsis I'm going to give for OverLord is the most powerful PvP guild in an MMO. As that MMO is shutting down, only one player on the guild is online, and that player and his entire guild hall is teleported and merged into a different dimension. He keeps all his same things, stats, and weapons from the MMO, but he's in a different dimension. And the whole anime is setting up that this character is probably going to become, you guessed it, maybe you didn't guess, maybe you're not the fastest tool in the shed. The main character is going to try to be some sort of overlord. Now, to talk about the adaptation of OverLord. OverLord is, for the most part, a trailer anime. That means it's a trailer to go pick up the light novel. It didn't have the biggest budget, it didn't have the most adaptation, it wasn't a full length, it was just saying basically, here's some of the cool parts about this light novel, go check it out, it's a great light novel. Now, I'm not going to be judging it harshly or for that, I'm just going to be judging it as an anime standalone. Now, saying that, let's get into the characters. The OverLord characters are an expansive bunch, to say the least. In fact, if you were to do an episode individually on each character in OverLord, you would get about 30-40 episodes before they each had their own. There's a lot of characters, starting with the side characters. Side characters in OverLord are not really built upon, not really shown, but when they are shown, they are okay, decent. There's only a few side characters, and they're never painful to watch, and some of them have been somewhat funny, so for side characters, I'd give them a 6. Moving on to main characters. Main characters in OverLord are, again, you don't see much of them, and when you do see them, they have a couple funny moments, or a couple cool moments. In fact, I would give the side characters, again, another 6. Now, it's saving quality when it comes to characters is the main character. This is what the story is focused on throughout the anime, and this is who you're going to see most of. The main character isn't the general character you see a lot, I'm going to do what's good because it's good. This is I'm going to do what benefits me the most character. And he's very entertaining to watch because he calculates things out, and he's very, very brutal in his ways of doing things. And I'd give the main character, I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10, bringing this overall to a 7 out of 10 for characters. Moving on to Vanity. Vanity is made by Madhouse Studios. It has very good soundtracks, very good animation, very good art. It does have a lot of CGI used here and there, and the CGI isn't the best, but it's not painful to look at. It's not bad CGI. It's just, CGI, and it's not very high budgeted CGI. But the opening is pretty amazing, actually. It's really catchy. The animation's good. Voice acting is pretty good, and I'd give it overall an 8 out of 10. Now, onwards to action. Action, I would give a 6 out of 10. There isn't much of it. The parts of action we get is mediocre, but there's a few scenes in there that are really, really good, but there's only a couple of them. They're spread out. The action's not the best. There's really cool scenes, but for what we got in the anime, there's not much action. There's not. For being an action genre as its main thing, action fantasy, not having a lot of action, and for the action being very slim, and when you get it, not having it be very good, not the best. So 6 out of 10 for action. Plot isn't explained in the anime. It's hinted at, not explained. It's built up to, and throughout the whole thing, you kind of see what's about to do, but it never quite does it. Now, what's about to do sounds super, super amazing. Like, oh my gosh, a character going off conquering the world. That sounds awesome. And he has, the power to raise the undead and all this crazy jazz. Sounds cool. So, overall, the plot, if it actually got to that point, would be really, really awesome. It just never quite got to that point, is the problem. So, I give it 6 out of 10. It built up to a lot, but hasn't got there yet. The writing in OverLord, I'd give an 8 out of 10, because of the fact it is very good writing. because it's very entertaining and good writing for the most part. There's good dialogue, there's good foreshadowing, there's good build-up, there's good scenes, there's a lot of good things going on, and really overall, you kind of gotta treat this like One Punch Man, where the main characters aren't going to be threatened for a very long time, and so it's built up as that, so I can't really deduct points because I know eventually they will be threatened. But so I'm going to give writing an 8 out of 10, which its writing is actually very strong. Now, moving down onward to the adaptation. Like I said earlier, this is a trailer for the light novel of OverLord, so the adaptation isn't bad. It doesn't detract, it just doesn't show very much. It's very minimalistic to say the best, actually. It's incredibly minimalistic, but it doesn't detract at all. So I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. It doesn't detract, but also it doesn't add, it's a trailer. It's, if you watch an AMV or trailer, that's basically the plot or adaptation you're going to get. Now, moving on to foreshadowing / believability. It is a 6 out of 10, getting away real quickly. In the light novel, the foreshadowing and believability is really quite high, actually. It's probably more like a 9 out of 10. But for this, I'm not saying you have to suspend your disbeliefs, but there's good foreshadowing, but it's foreshadowing things that may or may not even happen in the length of the anime. Its believability isn't the greatest because there are things in the light novel that are foreshadowed and are completely and utterly explained before they're used, but in this, they don't explain it and just use it, which is fine for a trailer. Again, trailer, 6 out of 10 for foreshadowing and believability. Moving on to world building. Now, the world this is set in is actually pretty cool. It's a nice world. I like it. But it's not very threatening. It's not like, oh, it's this new hostile environment. It's so hostile. But it is actually pretty cool. I do like the world, and I do find it's quite nice. It's a nice world. It's a nice change of pace. It's nice to be in this world and see things that are in it. I'm gonna give the world part of it probably an 7. Now, for world building is actually really, really well done. It's good world building. I can't say much about it to avoid spoilers, but it does build the world quite well, and it builds it properly. It's just through watching it, without any exposition dumps, you know quite a lot about the world. They don't exposition dump a lot, and you kind of still already know what's going on in the world and what's happening. So I would give that a 7. Actually, I'd probably bump that up to an 8 out of 10. So overall, I give world building a 7 out of 10. Moving on to comedy. Comedy is another large aspect about the anime. Maybe not so much the light novel, but about what the anime is a large part of it. The comedy is entertaining. It might not be your type of comedy, and you could be easily off-put by the comedy. So it's hit and miss. If it hits, you'll like it a lot. If it doesn't hit, well, it's not the whole show. So I'm going to give comedy a 7 out of 10. Now, my personal enjoyment of OverLord was an 8 out of 10. I quite enjoyed watching it a lot, actually. Even for its 13 episodes, it had some really badass scenes in there. It has some really hilarious moments in that comedy. Its world was nice to be in. Its foreshadowing was good at times. It had clever writing. It was very good visuals, and the main character was a joy to watch at times. So overall, I'd give my personal enjoyment an 8 out of 10. Which brings its whole score to a 68. Now, this isn't the highest score ever, but that's mostly because individually its stats aren't very well. How the stats come together, however, is actually quite well done. It is, again, my personal enjoyment was an 8 because those stats kind of all combine together to make a enjoyable ride. You do have to turn your mind off for it. You do have to take things with grains of salt. Actually, it's not even with grains of salt. You have to take things and say, it's probably explained in the light novel, which isn't a good way of doing it. But again, it's just a trailer for the light novel. I'd recommend, if you're a fan of light novels, I'd recommend picking up the light novel. It sounds really good from what I hear of it, and if you have no problem reading the light novels, I'd recommend picking up the light novel. It's really good from what I hear of it. It's much farther ahead than the anime got to, and it will explain a lot of things. Now, if you don't like light novels, I can't really blame you. Reading is difficult and all that. So, if you watch anime, the worst that could happen is it will be a pretty good time. Now, I hope you all have a happy Halloween. Unless you're not watching this on Halloween time, then screw you. You don't get a happy Halloween. I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, I hope you all found this review helpful. If you did, I'm doing my job correctly. I will see you all in the next review or wherever I see you. And bye, everybody.